Good evening. This meeting of May 11th, 2015 of the Dubuque Community School District Board of Education is called to order. Our mission is to develop world-class learners and citizens of character in a safe and inclusive learning community. Roll call, please.
Mr. Barton.
Here.
Mr. Vitine.
Here.
Mr. Donahue.
Here.
Mr. Prohaska.
Here.
Ms. Ryan.
Here.
Ms. Siegert.
Here.
Mr. Strelo.
Present. All right, we are led by an ambitious and energetic group of Cub Scouts from Irving School, so they're going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Oh, Cub Scout.
Julie Rinkert, we are from Irving Cub Scouts Pack 50.
Thomas Vesha, Wolf. Richie Zell, Wolf. Brendan Dean, Bear. Jacob Rinkert, Bear. Thurindu Jarikama, Weebelo.
John Uzellen, the Cub Master with Pack 50. We also have a couple siblings with us from Troop 11.
Jason Rankert.
Zach Uzel. Dylan Dean.
Harlan Rankert.
And I'm Mrs. Meehan, the principal, just here to support. These boys are just working on a merit badge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Talking to
I move that the Board of Education approve the agenda as submitted.
It's been moved and seconded that the Board of Education approve the agenda as submitted. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
I move that the Board of Education approve the minutes of the regular meeting on April 13th as submitted.
second.
It's been moved and seconded that the Board of Education approve the minutes of the regular meeting on April 13th, 2015 as submitted. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. Thank you.
I'm glad that we've got a large audience tonight, because this is often a meeting that we don't have a big audience, and it's my opportunity to publicly recognize and thank the school board. As they all know, and as we, the administrators of the district, all know, but maybe the community is unaware, are folks who put in countless hours, probably 200 or better hours per year, working on school business. So they go through a rigorous election process. They field often complaints and seldom praise, but they certainly are deserving of the latter. So I just wanted to take a minute during this month and recognize our school board members, thank them for their support of the young people of Dubuque. Their work is what separates our educational system, because it is led by 7 members elected from our community, not from a national government, not from a state government. You'll hear me talk a lot when it comes to a variety of issues about local control, and the reason I'm passionate about local control is because I believe the best decisions for our community and for our school systems made at the local level by folks who are elected by the community to represent their voice. So I do want to hand out a certificate. I do have a short quote here from Lee Hamilton. It said, "I can assure you public service is a stimulating, proud, and lively enterprise. It is not just a way of life, it is a way of living fully." So we appreciate the time and the effort and the thought and all those things that you do as a school board for the betterment of our 10,600 students. So a round of applause for our school board. Mr. Martin.
Thank you.
Frame is going to be mailed.
The frame is in the mail.
Yes.
We're almost in order.
Thank you.
You're not Tara. Mr. Reload.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dan.
Thank you very much.
Ooh, from the Iowa School Boards is on my list.
So again, we appreciate your efforts on behalf of our students and our staff and our community, and that certificate's about the sum total of their payment for the year. So, we're good.
We got Cheetos.
And Cheetos, so thank you.
Thank you, Stan.
Thank you.
We have board salutes.
All right, I'll start. On Friday, I was able to attend the Eisenhower PTO 5-Star Award that they give to a teacher and a paraprofessional at the school. And this year's recipient went to Mary Jo Vogt, a first grade teacher, and to Sharon Rockwell Dalton, a paraprofessional at the school. And it was really fun to see all the kids getting together. They're all excited. They all shout out the one that they picked because it's voted upon by the students and the staff. And it was a fun, energetic time to be there. So I salute the 2 winners at Eisenhower.
Great, thank you very much. Let's see, Mr. Prohaska, you have?
Yeah. Congratulations to Amy Haverland, Science and Social Studies teacher at Jefferson Middle School, who was named Teacher of the Year at last week's Educators Recognition Dinner. So congratulations to Amy. I happen to have had her in class in high school at senior. Also, congratulations to Joe Maloney, principal of Marshall Elementary School, for receiving the Team Award presented to the administrator for exemplary support of teacher success. And he had a very nice group of teachers. I think the whole staff from Marshall was there, and kind of lengthy, but it was very nice. Dave, also congratulations to Dave Carnahan, a former teacher and volunteer at Table Mound Elementary School, who received the Friend of Education Award. And also an award presented to Dan Merritt, assistant principal at Senior High School, who was presented the State Team Award given by the Iowa State Education Association, and the president of the ISEA was there to give him the award. Excuse me. I'd like to also just mention I did attend Wash and Jeff musicals, and they were both very high quality, excellent musicians, excellent acting, dancing, etc. So,
Great, thank you. Amazing talent for sure.
yep.
Mr. Barton?
I have a board salute for Josh Rush, who's out in the crowd. Josh he's a student at George Washington Middle School. He interviewed me tonight for working on a Scout merit badge, and I'll tell you what, I've been interviewed by the best of them. I mean, Ed Anderson, Stacy Becker, KCRG people. Josh grilled me. This guy, will you stand up, Josh? Josh absolutely grilled me, and he didn't give me room to breathe. He was pressing me on the budget. He was pressing me on policies. He was pressing me on so many things that I think I need to go home and take a shower. Toughest interviewer in Boy Scout history right there. Just did a great job, and it's clear that...
And if you sat through Tom Barton, you certainly earned that merit badge.
But he did just a great job, and I really applaud him. That's exactly exemplary of some of the good stuff going on with our Scouts.
Good, thank you.
Yes, Mr. President, we have a board salute to Washington Middle School teachers Carla Digman and Christopher Sen, who partnered with 2 Loras College professors, Rebecca Monhard and Robert Keller, to present at the National Science Teachers Association 2015 STEM Forum and Expo in Minneapolis. The presentation will describe a professional development program for middle school teachers that seek to develop stimulating and challenging classroom lessons for students that integrate mathematics and science topics.
Very good.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Viteen.
I have one.
And Tara.
I had the pleasure of attending and judging the Prescott Paper Dress Show again this year. It was fabulous. I really enjoy that. What they put on, there was 26 different dresses put on, and Prescott, Lincoln, Kennedy were the schools that participated this year, and it was absolutely fabulous. So a shout out to Scott Lammer. He puts this together every year, the art teacher at Prescott. And any other art teachers who are interested at the other elementary schools, I encourage you to please participate, because it's an amazing show. So I'd like to say that to all those kids that participated in that, the 4th graders.
Very good. Thank you.
All right, are we ready?
Yep.
I move that the Board of Education receive and file proof of publication of notice of public hearing and the budget amendment and authorize payment of the legal notice publication cost to the Telegraph Herald.
It's been moved and seconded that the Board of Education receive and file proof of publication of the notice of public hearing on the budget amendment and authorize payment of the legal notice publication cost to the Telegraph Herald. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Mr. Kelleher.
Good evening, board members. This is Superintendent Ryan Gans. Tonight we are asking you to amend the budget for the 14-15 school year. We do this each spring, this time of year, on an annual basis if we predict our expenditures will be higher than the budgeted amount we did in February 2014. And right now we have estimates that they'll come in right near the amount we had projected, but some unforeseen circumstances such as last year's summer food program, which we did not know about at that time. We had some additional costs in that area which may or may not put us above the amount we had approved back in February of 2014. So to avoid an audit comment and make sure we're legal with the state, we're asking you to increase the budget in those two areas. It does not change the levy rate that was put on the property taxpayers. This is strictly an expenditure purpose only. Okay? Any questions on that? Thank you.
Thank you.
I move the Board of Education open the public hearing to allow public comments.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the Board of Education open the public hearing to allow public comments. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
I move that the Board of Education close the public hearing.
Is there anyone in the room that would like
I'm
to
sorry.
address the board or make a public comment regarding the budget amendment?
Now, ready? I move the Board of Education close the public hearing and return to regular session.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the Board of Education close the public hearing and return to regular session. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
I move the Board of Education adopt the budget amendment for fiscal 2014-2015 as published.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the Board of Education adopt the budget amendment for fiscal 2014-15 as published. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Thank you.
I move that the Board of Education receive and file proof of publication of notice of public hearing and the proposed sale of a 2005 International School Bus and authorize payment of the legal notice publication to cost to the Telegraph Herald.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the Board of Education receive and file proof of publication of notice of public hearing on the proposed sale of a 2005 International School Bus and authorize payment of the legal notice publication costs to the Telegraph Herald. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Mr. Burkhart, you're going to give us an overview.
Good evening, board members, Superintendent Ryan Gans. We had another successful auction through govdeals.com. Happy to report that the district will net over $15,000 from our last auction. The school bus that you've made mention, you have an offer on the table of $10,600 from Taylor Bus Services out of Murray, Kentucky. And he pays the $795 fee on top of that, so he's paying $11,395 for the bus. So if you approve this sale, he'll be here this week and pick it up, and we may do this again. As Mr. Keller has told me, we receive approximately $1,600 more than we do in trade-in.
Yep.
So we're excited about the future with this.
I move the Board of Education open the public hearing to allow public comments.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the Board of Education open the public hearing to allow public comments. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Is there anyone that would like to talk about a school bus?
Mom, you want that bus?
Apparently not.
Brag, brag.
Yeah. I move the Board of Education close the public hearing and return to regular session.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the Board of Education close the public hearing and return to regular session. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries.
I move that the Board of Education approve the sale of the 2005 International School Bus to Taylor Bus Sales for $10,600.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the Board of Education approve the sale of a 2005 International School Bus to Taylor Bus Sales, Inc. for $10,600. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Thank you.
I move that the Board of Education receive and file proof of publication of notice of public hearing on the maintenance storage building project and authorize payment of the legal notice publication cost to the Telegraph Herald.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the Board of Education receive and file proof of publication notice of public hearing on the maintenance storage building project and authorize payment of the legal notice publication costs to the Telegraph Herald. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Mr. Burkhart.
You may recall the maintenance storage building project consists of constructing a 56 by 75 steel building that will include 3 overhead doors and operators, 3 walk-through doors, lighting, electrical, and site drainage. Also include a concrete floor. The purpose of this project is to move equipment inside that's currently parked outside that's used by B&G, trucks, lawnmowers, etc. We also store countertops, books, sinks, doors that are taking from schools like Hempstead that are being renovated. They're repurposed, refinished, and put back into schools for extra life in years ahead. That project, if approved, will start on June 15th and be completed by October 19th. We appreciate your support on the project, and I'd be happy to answer any questions before the public hearing.
Any questions?
Move the Board of Education open public hearing to allow public comments.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the Board of Education open the public hearing to allow public comments. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Is there anyone wishing to address the board on the maintenance storage building project?
Move the Board of Education close public hearing and return to regular session.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the Board of Education close the public hearing and return to regular session. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Don't all jump at this one.
Take it.
I move that the Board of Education approve the resolution adopting plan specifications, form of contract, and estimated total cost of the maintenance storage building project. Whereas on the 9th day of March 2015, plan specification, form of contract, and the estimated total costs were initially filed with the Secretary for the construction of certain public improvements described in general as the maintenance storage building project. And whereas a notice of hearing on the plan specification, form of contract, and estimate of total costs for said public improvements was published as required by law. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Education of the Dubuque Community School District, Dubuque, Iowa, Section 1, that the said plan specification, form of contract, and the estimated total cost for the maintenance storage building project are hereby approved and adopted as the plan specification, form of contract, and estimated total cost for said public improvement as described in the preamble of this resolution.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the Board of Education approve the resolution adopting plan specifications, form of contract, and estimated total cost of the maintenance storage building project as read. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Thank you.
Reporting of bids.
And I'll be happy to report on the bids. Bids for the maintenance storage building project were received, open, and read aloud on April 16th, 2015. 6 bids were received. There were no bidding irregularities. All the bids were complete and well prepared. Those 6 bids are Beck Construction, $203,250. Epic Construction, $213,000. Clower Construction, $204,000. Maryville Construction Company, $211,000. Portson Construction, Inc., $272,000. And Tricon Construction Group, $218,800. Buildings and Grounds recommends the board enter into a contract with Beck Construction in the amount of $203,250. That amount, the soft cost, the professional fees are all budgeted in the 15-16 summer PEPAL money that we're so fortunate to have. The project will start on June 15th and is expected to be completed before October 19th.
Great. Any questions, Mr. Burkhart?
I move that the Board of Education approve the resolution making award of construction contract. Be it resolved by the Board of Education of the Dubuque Community School District, Dubuque, Iowa, Section 1, that the following bid for the maintenance storage building project described in the plans and specifications heretofore adopted by this board is accepted, the same being the lowest responsible bid received for such work as follows. Contractor, Beck Construction Incorporated of Cascade, Iowa, amount of base bid, $203,250. Section 2, that the president and secretary are hereby directed to execute a contract with the contractor, such contract not to be binding on the district until approved by this board.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the Board of Education approve the resolution regarding the maintenance storage building project, making award of construction contract as read. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Thank you.
I move the Board of Education receive and file proof of publication of notice of public hearing on the proposed sale of the property to the City of Dubuque and authorize payment of the legal notice, publication, cost of the Telegraph Herald.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the Board of Education receive and file proof of publication of notice of public hearing on the proposed sale of property to the City of Dubuque and authorize payment of the legal notice, publication, cost to the Telegraph Herald. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Mr. Burkhart, overview.
The city wishes to purchase approximately 4,453 square feet of the south end of the Audubon School playground area. That area is needed for construction of the B branch. More specifically, a bike path will come through that area. Another way to identify the area I'm talking about is if you're familiar with the fence that's on the south end of that playground area, move it 15 to 20 feet towards the building. That's the area I'm trying to describe. The city provided a 300-page appraisal report on 7 parcels recently purchased in the path of the B branch. They also sent 3 comps for your review. Those range from $2.79 to $3.05 a square foot. The information they provided also is making you an offer of $2.99 a square foot. That's $13,314.47. They agree to pay all surveying, platting, abstracting costs, as well as the district's legal expense and any cost to run legal ads that are associated with the sale of that property. The city's also agreed to maintain the fence and own it and maintain it. The purchase offer also provides additional site improvements for Audubon. That includes new fence, concrete sidewalk improvements, restoration of the playground area, and regrading the playground that's disturbed by the construction and beyond that somewhat. Buildings and Grounds has plans to dovetail into that construction project and take an opportunity to expand that improvement to Audubon. Attorney Doug Henry's reviewed all the documents you have in front of you regarding the offer to buy. I do want to read one email that I received from him Friday on the 8th, and it has to do with regarding the plat. This is to me from Doug Henry. It says the plat hasn't been filed yet, so the legal description on the deed will be slightly different from the resolution that you have, because the plat will become final before the closing, and that's the city's responsibility to do that, not the district. That's the only thing he wanted to make you aware, just because of how fast this is moving in the process. Otherwise, he was comfortable with the agreement in front of you. Principal Glazer asked me to express his excitement for the improvements coming to Audubon, and the city's intentions are to move forward after receiving approval from the school board. They'll be taking us to the city council for approval and setting a closing date. If the purchase offer is approved, Mr. Henry and Mr. Kelleher will be kept up to date on the closing date, as well as any other issues that may arise. I'd be happy to answer any questions that I haven't covered.
Mr. President, is the plat part of the bill of sale, the revised plat? Will it be part of the bill of sale?
It is. It's all included in that package, yes. You should have that all.
And we can get a check from Joyce Connors before she leaves the building?
That I don't know.
Any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Burkhart.
I move that the Board of Education open the public hearing and allow for public comments.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the Board of Education open the public hearing to allow public comments. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Is there anyone wishing to comment on the proposed sale of property to the City of Dubuque?
I move that the Board of Education close the public hearing and return to regular session.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the Board of Education close the public hearing and return to regular session. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries.
All right. Whereas pursuant to notice published as required by law on April 23, 2015, the Board of Directors of the Dubuque Community School District held a hearing on the 11th day of May 2015 on the proposal to convey an interest in real property according to one certain written offer received from the City of Dubuque, Iowa, and whereas said proposed transaction has been fully considered, and whereas the following action is found to be in the best interest of the district and residents thereof. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Board of Directors of the Dubuque Community School District. Section 1, that the offer to buy is hereby accepted and the property described herein shall be conveyed by the district to City of Dubuque, Iowa for the price of $13,314.47 and other good and valuable consideration as stated in the said offer. Conveyance by the district shall be by warranty deed. Section 2, the board president and secretary are authorized to sign the warranty deed. Section 3, the board president, secretary, superintendent, and administrative officers of the district are authorized to take all action necessary to complete the above described transaction, including execution of ancillary documents according to the terms and conditions of the said offer, including the enforcement of post-closing obligations of the buyer. Section 4. The property is described as follows. Comprised of Lot 2 of B Branch Subdivision Number 12 in the City of Dubuque, Iowa, according to the preliminary plat attached hereto.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the Board of Education approve the resolution concerning the sale of property to the City of Dubuque as read. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Thank you.
I move the Board of Education receive and file proof of publication of notice of public hearing on the proposed sale of property on Pennsylvania Avenue and authorize payment of the legal notice publication cost to the Telegraph Herald.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the Board of Education receive and file proof of publication of notice of public hearing on the proposed sale of property on Pennsylvania Avenue and authorize payment of the legal notice publication costs to the Telegraph Herald. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion,
Telegraph Herald's making out all right today.
that motion carries. Mr. Burkhardt, an overview.
I'm sorry to report no bids were received to purchase that house and relocate it somewhere in the area. So Buildings and Grounds is going to get together and come forward in the next few months with some new ideas.
Great. Thank you.
I move the Board of Education open the public hearing to allow public comments.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the Board of Education open the public hearing to allow public comments. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Is there anyone wishing to address the board regarding the sale of property on Pennsylvania Avenue?
I move that the Board of Education close the public hearing and return to regular session.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the Board of Education close the public hearing and return to regular session. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Thank you.
I move the Board of Education suspend the rules of order and go into public open forum.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the Board of Education suspend the rules of order and go into open forum. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. On behalf of the fellow board members, at this time I'd like to invite any member of the audience to step to the microphone and with comments about items of interest or concern. Please begin by stating your name and your address. It would be appreciated if you limit your comments to 3 minutes so we can keep the meeting moving in a timely fashion to allow others an opportunity to speak. We ask that you remember that Iowa law prohibits us from discussing specific employees or their job performance. We would appreciate it if you would refrain from using names of employees in your comments. The board's role is to listen to your comments, but a response and/or action will not be forthcoming if the topic is not an agenda item. If you have thoughts to share about items that are included as topics for tonight's agenda, we would invite those comments at this time also. So in advance, we thank you for your support of the board.
I'll tell you that microphone is very sensitive, so you don't have to.
Okay.
Well, however you're comfortable, just know it will pick you up, so you don't have to.
Hi, my name is Mia Burns. I'm a sophomore at Hempstead High School, and I live on 1481 Jackson Street, Dubuque, Iowa. Growing up, I lived in a household with my mother as a single parent and my siblings. I lived happily until my older brother, who I looked up to as a father figure, was sent to prison. Not only did this hit me hard, it also hit my mother hard, and that hurt me to see her hurting. I began to shut down instantly, not wanting to eat, talk, or even socialize with my siblings. When I did, it was bickering rather than a healthy conversation. At school, I was stripped of my recess privileges because I was, as the school would say, antisocial during the outside time period. I was placed in a group of about 4 girls and talked about family problems. Naturally, this caused me to shut down. Middle school opened my eyes up to how important mental health was, and I began to write poetry about it. Soon after, I advanced to high school, becoming a bit more social as the years passed, but my eating ranged from high to low, and I was told to eat more freshman year because my weight was dropping drastically. In physical education class, I'd often have panic attacks, hyperventilation, and even sometimes I'd black out. I recently went to my doctor about my diet and depression. It was recently suggested that I take medication. At the time, I was all for it. But after studying addiction and the effect of drugs upon teenage brain and biology, I began to shy away. So I was placed in therapy. But I spent years isolating myself, therefore it's very hard for me to be able to talk about my mental health. I personally think it'd be easier in a group setting, such as the Women's Wellness Group that we held at Hempstead High School. In the group, we gathered weekly and connected with one another and talked about our struggles and productive ways to cope with them. We as a group found that it was easier for us to open up with one another, seeming that we all suffer from depression. If the schools all had these groups and made this not only for high schoolers and women, but for boys and girls of all ages, I think that helped out a lot. Our long-term goal is to make this better for other kids because each and every one of us has been affected when it comes to our mental health or another loved one in our lives' mental health. We wish to shine light upon this situation and help people who are suffering from similar conditions, so that not only students can help one another, but teachers and other professionals can effectively help us too in the long run.
Thank you.
Hello, my name's Anna Gudenkoff. I'm a senior at Senior High School, and I live at 1155 Richards Road in Dubuque, Iowa, 52003. Thank you, Mia, for your incredible courage in sharing your story. Most people don't, and that's a problem we are facing today. Unfortunately, Mia's story isn't all that unique. 1 in 5 students face the challenges of mental illness, whether it be anxiety, depression, or other countless setbacks, and yet nobody wants to talk about it. But now we are going to talk about this issue, and in turn, we hope to open the Dubuque community's mind to the silencing stigma. All of us are here today to present our committee, End the Trend, an effort to destigmatize and address children's mental health. Those of us speaking tonight have a similar goal: to make the treatment of mental illness more accessible and more discussed in our schools. We have created a panel of students and people of the community that have been meeting over the last month and have each experienced mental illness in some way or another. Something we can all agree upon is that there is a lack of mental health resources and we want to change. We have come up with several ways in which the students themselves can spread awareness, and we have ideas for the school board to consider as well. We believe that with knowledge comes power. Without it, we create ignorance, but with it, we can change Dubuque, maybe even the world. And with your help, we'd like to begin that change. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, school board members. My name is Jacob Brokel. I live at 1671 Amy Court, Dubuque, Iowa, 52002. I am a junior at Hempstead High School. I am part of Octagon Club, PBIS, as well as the Student Ambassador Program. Part of our focus is on students within the district that are homebound due to mental or physical disabilities. These students are a part of the high schools but may not feel that way due to the physical separations that they have. And the Trend plans on working personally with school clubs and programs within Hempstead and Senior in order to create care packages for these homebound students. These care packages are simple and have minimal to no costs, but can have a profound effect on involving our students. Packages will contain items such as club or school t-shirts, cards signed by fellow classmates, invitations to upcoming activities or events, and the school newspaper. Isolation can be the worst part of being a homebound student, and being invited to events or acknowledged as a classmate can be an effective way of including students that feel alone. Knowing people are aware of you and your importance can make the most profound difference. We also plan to organize a small group of students from high schools that share similar experiences, past or current, involving mental illness. Beginning in the fall of 2015, individual students who have dealt with mental illness and are comfortable with sharing their experiences would visit the local middle schools and talk to their health classes in order to target the problem where it often begins. These students would share their stories, show that there are others with the same problems, and explain how they can address the problem. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Maren Phelan. I live at 3544 Eclipse Circle, Dubuque, Iowa, 52002. As we've stated, one very important part in the destigmatization of mental disorders is increasing awareness of this very delicate and often avoided topic. The Humans of New York is an online organization that works to advertise the stories of the amazingly diverse people of the city of New York. This site, created by and run by a young man named Brandon Stanton, is a collection of photos and videos of New York inhabitants, each one with a short story or quote about his or her life. These stories help to spread awareness about individual lives in this huge city, which would otherwise fade into a crowd and go unnoticed. We feel as though if we were to adapt this idea to fit the Dubuque schools, we would be able to raise awareness for this issue, in turn both helping students who suffer from these issues to understand that they're not alone, and helping people who are not directly affected by these issues to understand more about them, and therefore potentially become more compassionate toward those who are affected. In order to implement this project, we could enlist the help of photo and video production classes and create a website or social media page for these stories. But, of course, we would need more than just these individuals to help our entire project keep going in the future. So we have decided that in order to recruit future committee of leaders of our project, being that half of us are seniors and will be graduating at the end of this year, we will meet with different groups within the schools, such as Key Club, Student Ambassadors, Interact Club, PBIS, and the Student Council. The students who are interested in becoming involved will then meet regularly to ensure the implementation of this project for years to come.
Thank you.
Good evening, Superintendent Reigans, Mr. Donahue, and members of the board. My name is Jack Hossteger, and I'm a senior at Hempstead High School, and I live at 12638 Whispering Ridge, Dubuque, Iowa, 52002. We as students recognize children's mental health as a problem, and we have committed to concrete action steps to address this issue. But in order for this initiative to be truly successful, we need the rest of the Dubuque community to do the same thing. So we have several recommendations for the school district and for the community to help fix this issue. First, we would simply like your support of this initiative and our actions. Secondly, we would like to see a page on the district's website and on each school's website dedicated to mental health. Much like the district's page dedicated to obesity, this would show the district's commitment to mental health and would provide relevant information about resources available both in and out of school for families dealing with this issue. Third, we would like to see all DCSD staff that work regularly with students to be trained in youth mental health first aid. These evidence-based programs will train school staff to recognize the symptoms of mental illness and to respond appropriately if students with a mental health issue have an immediate need under their supervision. Fourth, many students with severe anxiety or other disorders that have two options: to either go to school all day every day and receive some limited counseling, or to go homebound. And students that go homebound usually have very limited success in continuing their education, let alone returning to the school building and ever graduating. So as an intermediate option, we believe each high school should have a staffed therapeutic room for students with severe anxiety or other disorders to go as a safe place within the school and to hopefully keep them inside the school building. Lastly, this is a problem that extends far beyond the reach of our schools, so we would like Dubuque to create a children's cabinet composed of representatives from area mental health service providers, leadership from our schools, representatives from the juvenile justice system, community leaders, and parents and students that deal with this issue to meet on a regular basis to identify gaps, to ensure services are fully integrated, and to make sure they're actually reaching the people that need them, and to continue this important conversation in a way that will generate more ideas. So we recognize that some of these recommendations will take an investment of money that that is very difficult to make in a tight fiscal environment. But some of these recommendations will not take a significant financial investment. All they will take is an investment of willpower. So we really hope that the Dubuque community will find that willpower and commit to being a leader on children's mental health. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Katie Stringer, and I'm a junior at Hempstead. I live on 16950 Daisy Trail, Dubuque, Iowa, 52001, and I'm here to share my story. I've never liked the way that I looked. Even in elementary school, I was self-conscious about different aspects of my appearance, and I avoided mirrors. In middle school, I began to notice that I was bigger than some of my friends, and this really bothered me. So starting in the middle of my 8th grade year, I decided that I would feel better if I lost weight, and I began dieting and exercising more. I started weighing myself once a week, but later this increased to every day, then twice a day, and then every time I went to the bathroom. I lost quite a bit of weight, but I still didn't like the way that I looked. I ate very little unless someone was watching me, but no matter how much I restricted my food intake, I still felt that I needed to lose more. One day I had eaten more than usual and I was devastated, so I decided to make myself throw up. I told myself that I would only do it that one time, but soon I did it after every time I ate. I lost 40 pounds in about 6 months. I weighed just 90 pounds. I brought a pillow with me a lot of places because my bones would dig into my seat, and size 0 jeans were very loose on me. My skin was pale and slightly yellow, and my hair was brittle and fell out easily, yet I still thought I was overweight. Some days I would stand in front of the mirror and sob because I had never seen anyone who was as ugly as I was. I felt completely worthless and hopeless. I self-harmed and I attempted suicide twice. The worst part about my experience was how I felt completely alone. I thought I was the only one who had an illness like I did, so I didn't tell anyone about it. I wasn't even aware that I had an eating disorder because no one had ever talked about it seriously. I wouldn't wish this experience on anyone, and it has become very important to me to try preventing this from happening again. We are here to represent the 20% of our peers with mental illness who have no voice due to the stigma and lack of knowledge that afflicts students in every community. We are very passionate about this issue and ask for your support as we attempt to bring about much-needed change. We have emailed you our handout, and we wish that you would take a look through that and become partners with us as we continue this very important conversation. Thank you.
Thank you, Katie.
Hi, I'm Dr. Heidi Townsend, and I live at 1952 Firestone Drive. I guess I'm the sole person here to defend the special needs children who also suffer from mental health issues. Our youngest son was diagnosed with autism at 2 years old. Raising him to his current age of 10 has been the hardest thing I've ever done. And it keeps getting harder. I don't even want to think about what adolescence will bring. I have to help him navigate through life with his little brain continually causing him angst, confusion, and pain. He and I end many days physically, mentally, and emotionally exhausted. This struggle puts a strain on my marriage, my friendships, my relationships, and my relationship with my other son. Every task I undertake with my autistic son has to be planned and prepped, and even then, any tiny variation from our plan could send him into a major meltdown. He will kick, bite, hit, and yell. Not a pretty sight. This behavior is not his fault, and it's not my fault. It is a symptom of autism called ESRD, or emotional self-regulation dysfunction. This behavior also occurs in those suffering from ADHD, depression, and bipolar disorder. Behavior therapy and medications have helped immensely, but we still have a long way to go. Behavior therapy is only funded through age 8, by the way. My son will not be cured of autism, but we can help him find ways to cope with life run by neurotypical, meaning us. He needs continual medical care and educational services to help his brain understand our world. No one can imagine how hard it is to raise a special needs child unless you're doing it. I find it very difficult to take him anywhere in public without getting anxious. He has put a huge limit on my freedom, and we are pretty much social outcasts. And yet, I love him to pieces. I need you to understand how vulnerable the parents of special needs children are. Keep our vulnerability in mind when you force us to fight for any and all services our children receive in school, the community, and the medical field. We have to fight to get services. Then we have to fight to keep services. We have to fill out reams of paperwork, repeatedly having to prove our children need services, and endure long waiting lists to attain certain services. We also have to defend our children's need for services at IEP meetings. We have to translate legal jargon to determine what services our children may receive from the state and then know how to work within a stunted system. In order to adapt the educational program to the special needs child, the school policies need to be more proactive and flexible. Every autistic child, for example, has unique needs. One size does not fit all. My son has high-functioning autism, which means he has an above-average IQ. His brain processes things so differently from a neurotypical individual that you might think he has MR or a low IQ. Unfortunately for my son, most special needs community services are only provided for those with a low IQ. For example, he does not qualify for SEL, supported community living services, or any housing or group homes available after he graduates. Some school services are also affected. Currently in 3rd grade, my son scores greater than the 13th percentile for reading comprehension. Because of this, he no longer qualifies for reading assistance from his special ed teacher. Reading at greater than the 13th percentile is a terribly low standard for my son, almost farcical, and yet I now have to fight this ridiculous rule to get my son the help he deserves. His special education teacher knows he needs this assistance, but her hands are tied by outdated, inflexible, and cost-cutting rules like this. Some amazing teachers, therapists, paraprofessionals, and physicians have helped my son attain great breakthroughs. Unfortunately, many along the way have blamed me whenever he hasn't behaved well. It's a horrible emotional roller coaster every special needs parent experiences, and I urge the board to support the special needs children with improved and more readily available special education services. The board needs to listen to our special needs educators and the special needs parents and trust their recommendations for specific improvements. Help us help our children without always having to fight for it. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Sherry Leeser, and my address is 12298 Lismore Lane, and that's Dubuque, Iowa 52001. And I just brought a picture of my daughter with me, and I'm here similar as a parent. My daughter graduated December 2013, so she graduated ahead of her class with honors, but she was a student that had diagnosable mental illness as well, and her diagnosis included borderline personality disorder, ADHD, depression, as well as bipolar. And some of the school board members may remember me. I was here about 3 years ago fighting to have her allowed to return back to the Dubuque Community School District. And I guess I'm here to say, as a concerned parent, I applaud the young adult who stood up here today, because it's extremely difficult for a young student to talk about it and to accept it, and then to let their peers and other people know about it. And it's extremely difficult, as the speaker before me mentioned, as a parent to navigate this system. And my daughter is now graduated, and she was expelled from school at one point. But in part, I feel like part of that is because there's not a system in place to help these students who are struggling, who learn in different ways, who don't follow the traditional learning system. And it was very unfortunate. Her troubles began in 3rd grade, and at that point, I was fearful. It started with an ADHD diagnosis. I was fearful to tell the school because I didn't want her to be labeled. I didn't want everybody to think of her as the bad child or have that go forward with her school file. And ultimately, in the end, when she was expelled, I felt extremely let down by the school district. Because of her expulsion, she couldn't even take at-home classes and get credit for that. So I sought out Kirkwood, who did long-distance learning correspondence high school classes, which I paid for out of my own pocket, no problem. Then I had to find a proctor for her test, and the school district would not proctor those tests because she was expelled. And I just feel like the school board, as the previous speaker said, there needs to be a little more flexibility and understanding and working with people. Had I not sought to get her those credits from Kirkwood and sought out a proctor, she probably wouldn't have graduated. And so I feel that there are a lot of students in the district that are in this situation. And in summary, I'd just like to say with 1 in 5 experiencing a mental illness, I mean, that's 20% of the people. Look around this room, 20% of us have some type of experience with mental illness. And statistics also say that half of all mental health disorders show signs before the person turns 14. So half of those are before someone's 14. So it's really important for our school board, our educators, and everyone to understand and to find a solution and ways to adopt with these students. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This is my wife.
I thought it was further. Hi, I am Audrey Estrello, and I live at 1245 Valentine Drive, Dubuque, 52003. I didn't come with anything formally prepared, but I've just been listening to the students from the high schools that have come up, as well as the 2 other parents, and I guess it's hard for me to sit there and not feel like I can't stand up here and express how difficult it is. I have a child, my husband Matt and I, we have a child who does have a diagnosis of ADHD. In conjunction with that, we have pretty significant anxiety. And as I was listening to the high school students talking about some of their programmings and their ideas, they're right on with a lot of them, especially being able to have a place within a school when a child is having difficulty. I can't tell you how important that is for an individual who is suffering from anxiety. And when people see a child that's outwardly expressing their anxiety, from my experience, it's not coming out as, I think, the anxiety that people see where people just get nervous or biting nails or tapping. It can come out in huge explosive ways. And so that's viewed as very negatively, and that this child has a behavior disorder, this child has a behavior problem, versus this is anxiety that has been escalated. It's not a child who has started at, we've often heard the analogy of he seems to go from 0 to 100 in a flash. Well, our child doesn't run at 0. If it's 0 to 100, our child would run at a 95. And so it looks like 0 to 100 because he's maintaining 95, but it doesn't look like 95 to others. And so when you do have an environment where there is a safe spot, that is a very powerful out, as well as being a respectful out. But you also have to have a respectful, powerful back into the classroom environment. That's probably the second hardest step, is when your child has to leave the classroom because they're struggling, but trying to come back through that threshold of going back into the classroom and not feeling embarrassed, not feeling shame, not feeling like I'm so embarrassed that they already know that they're struggling, that they're having a hard time. They know that, and they know that everybody else knows that as well. So having a plan in place, you have an exit strategy, but you also have an entrance strategy. And that is, it's like a revolving door. It's having that strategy in place so the child will become more comfortable. And when they know that they have an exit, but they also have another way back in, it's not as scary and the anxiety levels drop. I also liked where they formed the child cabinet. I thought that was really a great idea too. That way you have people across the board that are together going for the same goal. mental health is a wide range, just as other disorders where you have autism spectrum disorders. It's so broad that you can't just say, my child has this. Typically, a child does not have just one diagnosis. It comes trifold or even greater. One may not be the primary, but usually the primary is what gets you on the board, or gets you the insurance, or gets you this, or certain services. But even if your child does have a certain diagnosis, services aren't always available until your child's been on a waiting list for 2.5 years. And then your 2.5 years of chaos and up and down, and you're surviving. You're trying to get up in the morning, you're trying to have breakfast, you're trying to make everything in your family as typical as it can be. You're normal. And then you get them to school, and then you get a phone call from school a half hour, hour later, or you're watching the clock and you're thinking, if I don't get a phone call by 1 o'clock, I know it's going to be okay. Or if I don't get a phone call by 11 o'clock, it's a good day. But if your phone rings or buzzes between that 9 and 11 o'clock hour, or whatever time frame it is, the whole world comes crashing down. And so it's so important for educators, administrators, leaders within our district to really be aware of what is needed for children that are not within the 80%, as people say, because there are no words to describe it, and it's so important for our district to know, to become more informed, to learn, to look outside of your own system. There are lots of systems and lots of programs that are out there, and being willing to investigate those and look at them and try them. And if they fail, you try something else. Keep doing the same strategy and the same program, and it doesn't work, there's no sense keep doing that. That's where that flexibility comes in that Dr. Townsend was talking about. And I just really appreciate you listening to all of us here, and thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. President, may I offer a comment?
Maybe when we get to board comments, you could.
Okay.
Yep. We're still in open forum. Is there anyone else wishing to address the board at this time?
I move the Board of Education reinstate the rules of order and return to regular session.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the Board of Education reinstate the rules of order and return to regular session. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries.
I move that the Board of Education approve those items listed in the consent agenda.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the Board of Education approve those items listed in the consent agenda. Is there any board members wishing to remove any items from the consent agenda for further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Thank you. That brings us to Facilities and Support Services Committee. Mrs. Seeger.
Yeah, we met last week. Was it this week? Last week?
Last week.
Time's flying, it's May. We met at Hempstead, so we took a quick tour of the renovations that are happening at Hempstead. We got a little update. It looks great over there. I think everything's running as planned. And then we also discussed a lot of the items that were already in the consent agenda and the public hearings that we had. I only have a few motions this evening. The first one is change order for the Hempstead renovation project. I move that the Board of Education approve change order number 6 to Conlin Construction on the Hempstead High School renovation project in the increased amount of $48,334.95.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the Board of Education approve change order number 6 to Conlin Construction on the Hempstead High School renovation project in the increased amount of $48,334.95. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Thank you.
I move that the Board of Education tentatively approve the plans, specifications, form of contract, and estimate of total cost for the elementary school's interactive projector project, and set the date, time, and location as June 8th, 2015 at 5:30 p.m. at the Forum, 2300 Cheney Road, Dubuque, Iowa, for a hearing thereon, and further authorize the advertisement for competitive bids.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the Board of Education tentatively approve the plans, specifications, form of contract, and estimate of total cost for the elementary school's interactive projector project, and set the date, time, and location as June 8, 2015 at 5:30 p.m. at the Forum, 2300 Cheney Road, Dubuque, Iowa, for a hearing thereon and further authorize the advertisement for competitive bids. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Thank you. All right. Thank you, Ms. Siegert. Educational Programs Policy Strategy Committee, Mr. Prohaska.
Yes, our committee met this past Thursday. We discussed several policies, reviewed several of the policies, board policies. We also reviewed some parent-teacher conference data, some student achievement data, talked about summer school a little bit. Our reading program for the third graders are going to be incorporated this year. Discussed a little bit about substitute teachers. And let's see, basically also we went and were given by Ms. Warder, our special education director, special education service delivery plan, how we're going to provide special education service to students in our district. This basically is following a state format. And there were allowances for public comments as well. So basically it's following a state plan. So I'm going to make a motion here that the Board of Education approve the special education service delivery plan as submitted.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the Board of Education approve the special education service delivery plan as submitted. Any discussion?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, I understand it's a corporate policy or a state policy, but I don't like the way it's written, and I felt like it's going through the motions. So again, I trust if you're all going to vote yes, but I'm voting no.
Yeah. But I would just like to add to that, we knew going maybe into tonight's meeting and with some concerns, to double check on the plan. The plan does need to be in place, but it's also amendable at any time. So while it's a long-term plan, the board, the administration can react or choose to make amendments to that as early as the next meeting. So at any time, it would be given. And then I did have one other thing for programs, unless you were going to mention, Jim, about or Tammy, about the looking at the Friday morning piece.
Oh, we got to vote first.
Oh, I'm sorry. I jumped ahead.
Yep. Any other discussion?
We'll vote on this first. Okay.
Yeah, sorry.
Right, yeah. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Also at our Ed Programs Committee.
Motion carries.
Motion carries, excuse me. Also at our Ed Programs Committee, we did discuss a little bit about before school and after school care, and specifically related somewhat to our Friday morning, 1 hour late arrival. And Mr. Ryan Gans, you might want to fill us in a little bit more about that.
Sure. So the board committed last year that Friday mornings professional learning time was vital to our staff and for the future of our students, but also shared some concerns in regards to implementing something that disrupted student or parent schedules. And so was asked to look into how we might provide some type of a study skills, a study time during that period available in our schools for wouldn't be a program that did a lot of extensions or program types of things, would be a place for students to come and study and have a place to sit until school started. So we are looking into that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anything else, Mr. President?
Thank you.
Great, thank you. New business.
I move that the Board of Education take no further disciplinary action related to students number 805906, number 809602, number 812353, number 807020, number 807673, and number 814731 at this time.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the Board of Education take no further disciplinary action related to students as read. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Board member comments. Mr. Clayton.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to acknowledge courage that took those young people this evening to come up and come forward and not only share their story, but give some I thought, very compelling ideas. That's not an easy thing to do, and I commend them for their efforts. I have to comment on Dr. Townsend's comments specifically. Being a father of 3 children on the autism spectrum, I have lived where Dr. Townsend has lived, and I've experienced the heartache of a child who turns on their parents in a physical way. And I just want her to know that it gets better. It really does get better. My sons are now 24, 22, and 21, and they're all 3 doing very well and accomplished, and it does get better. So God bless you for what you do.
Thank you. Mr. Martini? Mr. Martin?
Yeah, I just wanted to comment on the Y-Care issue on Friday mornings. I know I've gotten a lot of comments and calls. I hope we can find some kind of a reasonable solution with that, whether that's in concert with the Y-Care folks or whether that's us addressing the issue on our own. When you think about the total disruption that we have to have a schedule, and if you really want to influence people, you tell them what they're going to do with their time. And so there's a tremendous amount of responsibility with that. And so if there's anything we can do to alleviate that time. I was a single parent myself on Wednesday afternoons, schlepping over to Irving School at 1 o'clock, and I had to call it a day. I didn't have any other way to handle my kids being off on that day but to go home with the kids and end my workday. So I can appreciate the difficulties on the part of some of the parents. So I'm optimistic from our discussions that we can find a way to alleviate that burden on Friday mornings. I think that would be great from a scheduling standpoint for the parents. So I appreciate all. I know, Stan, you put in a lot of time on this, and I know the Y folks are working hard on their end too, but ultimately we've got to come up with, we have a responsibility on our own to come up with as good a community solution as we can. So I'm hoping we can be a part of that.
Well, and there's a great team who's working on solutions for that, and our elementary principals are working through that process. And it speaks to the value of the professional learning time. I mean, it's a problem we need to solve because it's a time that's vital for our staff and improvement of education.
I would just like to congratulate everybody that came out today. I had the privilege to work with the kids, and remarkable. The first time I met them, I told them, I said, I've been fighting for this cause for the last 3.5 years, and quite frankly, I think I'm coming across as the angry, ugly parent at this point, and people are getting tired of hearing me complain about this issue because I've been complaining about it long and hard. Again, I hope for everybody out there, you saw the face of mental health and mental illness, and you saw the emotion that the families go through. But again, those 6 kids we saw today were the best and brightest that we have. And for us to, continue with programs that take kids with anxiety and put them in seclusion rooms and make the IEP process so hard and not have accountability with our AEA and with our process, it's quite frankly had a devastating effect on my family, as you saw from the emotions that my wife gave. But and again, I've shared this. I spoke to Stacy Becker this morning, and I shared it with her. I don't believe in my heart of hearts that, I don't know, what do we have, 1,800 employees? I don't think one single employee doesn't have the best interest of kids at heart. I believe that with every fiber of my being. If you got into the teaching profession, you care about children. There's no doubt about it in my mind. But for us to not take a leadership role in this and not get rid of our programs that obviously don't work, that create more harm than good in many instances, and we don't look to better programs. Again, I find it sickening, and I will tell you, as I said, I don't believe a single person in this district doesn't have the best interests of kids at heart. But when we throw kids with anxiety into a seclusion room, you're taking a kid that was at a trauma level 2 and turning it into a trauma level 200. When we're not talking about things and not having good positive behavior interventions. If you meet that girl Mia, again, there's a kid who has every opportunity to say, I've been dealt a really bad hand in my life, but she's decided not to. She's decided to make a difference. She doesn't want to be a statistic. And I told her the first time I met her and she shared my story, I said, you're one of the bravest human beings I've ever met in my life. And if I ever have a chance to hire a kid like that to work for me someday, I'd do it in a heartbeat. I think they're all spectacular. And what they did today, I told them, I said, my voice is getting old and tired and angry, and nobody wants to listen to me anymore, and that's fine. But these 6 kids are leaders, and dynamic leaders who have the ability to change the way we operate as a district when it comes to special ed and mental health supports. And again, if we're not there for them, shame on us. But thank you.
Any other board member comments? Administrative?
You'll see listed on your agenda that senior high school graduation is the 24th, so the Sunday of Memorial Day at 1 o'clock. And Hempstead's will follow that night at 6 o'clock. As the board members know, that is a very special day to be both a board member, but we also congratulate the parents and the students and the administrative team and the teachers and the paraprofessionals and the cooks and the bus drivers and everybody who's part of that system from the time they walk in as a preschooler till the day they graduate ought to at one point in their career come over and experience high school graduations every year or at least once in a while, because it reinvigorates your spirit as to why we do what we do, watching those 800 plus young people walk across streets to receive their diploma. So that is the Sunday of Memorial Day, the 24th, 1 o'clock senior high, 6 o'clock Hempstead at Five Flags Auditorium.
Great. And anything noteworthy for the June meeting?
So June is one of those months where we have 2 board meetings. The first meeting in June is the 8th. Where we have a typical business meeting like this one. The second meeting is sort of the culmination of the year. We talk about the priority initiatives that we established last June and where we've come in accomplishing those, and then we also set the priority initiatives for the upcoming school year. So it's a little longer meeting, but a very worthwhile meeting.
Very good. All right. And with that, we're adjourned.